Another day, another improvisation. Welcome back, everyone, as we continue to set sail forward, scanning the horizons in our minds, looking for what might come over the horizon. Welcome back. Making it up in real time, Artist Journal, October 23rd, 2024, broadcasting from inner space in Berlin, Germany. My name's Adrian Pocobelli. And how do you like this? How do you like this? Pretty awesome. I mean, the original. And I looked it up because, of course, I don't know if, you know the original name of the source that, of course, Daniel W. is referencing here, but what a beautiful interpretation of this image. It is called the Flammarion. Is it manuscript? Let me look. It is. I called it the Cosmic Machinery woodcut, and sure enough, the Flammarion engraving appeared. A famous image. Now, I don't know. I assume that if this is the first one that shows up, and it's in Wikipedia, then this is probably it. But oftentimes we see the color version, this rad image, and I want to bring it up for contrast. Open link in new tab. And so, of course, the internet, the modern day internet, what a thing it is. So we can look not from eBay, which is probably the only place you can get it. You know, it's getting harder and harder to bring up images. But all to say, here's kind of a nice color version. So I assume the original is this black and white here. And I did bring it up large. Let's contrast it with Daniel W. because you're going to see actually all of the awesomeness that Daniel W. put into this work here. For example, so if you don't know it, I'm sure probably everybody watching this has seen this before, but if you haven't, kind of a classic image of... And there's a lot of mystery when this was made, and they don't know who made it, interestingly. This famous image. But as you see here, there is the person that is, the explorer, so to speak, breaking on through to the other side, to quote The Doors. Kind of a psychedelic, image here, kind of referenced by, you'll see it in I don't know, YouTube videos of Terence McKenna, and then you'll see this appear, right? Maybe a color version. And so there is the person. They don't know if it's from the 16th century or from the 19th century, interestingly. And we're going to read about that in a second, but let's just do the contrast. So here is the cosmic machinery on the left part of the image. Then on the right side of the image is kind of our world, right? The visible world, the world of appearance. Whereas underneath, we have a kind of reality, the cosmic machinery, almost the different hypostases, to use Neoplatonic language, different levels of reality here. And you almost get this kind of ethereal, sense, the ether, as I think Aristotle called it. There's the earth, then there's the sky, and then after the sky, I think, is what you get the ether. And I'm not sure if they thought it was the stars were all around or not, but let's just call it the cosmic machinery, and you get this wonderful, frame here. And then you see underneath here on the frame, there's kind of this little banner, so to speak, and you're going to see it here in Daniel W.'s version. So you see the banner and zeros and ones, interestingly, and I believe this is a mech.txt font, as it says here, font Mech Sans by mech.txt. So that's pretty cool. We saw Spiegel's Maskinen also use mech.txt's font recently. So it's pretty cool how that's kind of a thing. And so you see the frame here, and you gotta love these little columns here that are colored. There's so much creativity, frankly, in this interpretation. You gotta be impressed. Let me just... So you see the firmament here, as it's called. I was just reading it up on Wikipedia, and I'll read it with you quickly. But again, the cosmic machinery here. Here it's kind of more of circuit boards, and are those mushrooms? Are those mushroom caps? Are those clouds? They kind of look like mushrooms a little bit, don't they? And don't forget Daniel W.'s awesome mushroom series. And there's even, it looks like a circuit board. A pretty apropos kind of modern version. And you have to delight in the way that it is colored here as well. This gorgeous gradient. And fascinatingly contrasting it with black and white to so much power. And not only is there a visual power in this contrast, but there is a conceptual power. Dare I say, as the mundane world of appearance is in black and white and the, cosmic machinery redux here is in full spectrum color, almost psychedelic, loud, visually loud, shall we say. So super cool and very nice touch here. Daniel W. putting, a classic Daniel W. Face on the image here. So an interesting interpretation now is, I assume that Daniel W. kind of remade this all himself. In terms of, he did, in a sense, like instead of I thought it was a woodcut. I guess it's an engraving. There's actually debate on what this is. Like there's so much mystery around this image. Interestingly. And you see the stars here, and you see the stars here. Definitely an interpretation by Daniel W. And then instead of, and we see a printing process here, these little dots, I think they're called Bende dots, that, Lichtenstein would use, which they use for comics and everything, a printing technique, Zigmar Polka, of course. When you look up close here, like, who does that remind you of? Zigmar Polka. So, excuse me, the water is empty. There is only a couple of drops in the water, so we will persist here. And so here we are. So a beautiful work, edition of 6, and foregone, August Ground, mech.txt. People happy to pay $22 for this, which is awesome. So a healthy market here, and GM. Love it. I love it. Great title, edition of 6. So Daniel W. hits it out of the park. And so I also brought it up. So the Flammarion engraving, I thought we could take the opportunity very quickly to jump into the history here. The Flammarion engraving is a wood engraving, not a woodcut, but a wood engraving by an unknown artist. Its first documented appearance is in the book L'Atmosphère Météorologie Populaire, the Atmosphere Popular Meteorology, published in 1888, the first documented appearance by the French astronomer and writer Camille Flammarion. Several authors during the 20th century consider it to be either a medieval or Renaissance artwork, but the current consensus is that it's a 19th century illustration that imitates older artistic styles and themes, a pastiche of sorts. Pastiche isn't just, you could argue what Daniel W. did is a pastiche. It can be a reference to a previous image, like you see here, and this will come up actually in our YouTube comments with Louis, actually. There's a pastiche here, but there's also, you can do pastiche in terms of the style. And you could argue that this here is a pastiche, if it was made in the 19th century, it's a pastiche of like 15th or 16th century engraving. German style, it makes you think of Dürer, actually. The illustration depicts a man dressed as a pilgrim in a long robe and carrying a walking stick who has reached a point where the flat earth meets the firmament. And the firmament, in ancient Near Eastern cosmology, the firmament means a celestial barrier that separated the heavenly waters above from the earth below. In biblical cosmology, the firmament is the vast solid dome created by God during the Genesis creation narrative to separate the prime. Okay, let's not get too lost on that, but you get the point. It separates basically our world from kind of the celestial world. The pilgrim kneels down and passes his head, shoulders, right arm, and the top of the walking stick through an opening in the firmament, which is depicted as covered on the inside by the stars, sun, and moon. Behind the sky, the pilgrim finds a marvelous realm of circling clouds, fires, and suns. One of the elements of the cosmic machinery resembles traditional pictorial representations of the wheel in the middle of a wheel, described in the visions of the Hebrew prophet Ezekiel. Fascinating. The wood engraving has often but erroneously been referred to as a woodcut. It has been widely used as a metaphorical illustration of either the scientific or the mystical quest for knowledge. More recently, it has also been used to represent a psychedelic experience. And I don't want to go through all of it, but it's pretty interesting. So originally, scholar Heinrich Strauss dated the image to 1520 to 1530. Heinrich Rittinger suggested that it had been made 1530 to 1560. In 1957, historian of astronomy Ernst Zimmer claimed the image dated to the German Renaissance, but he was unable to find any version published earlier than 1906. The same image was used by psychoanalyst Carl Jung in his 1959 book Flying Saucers. Jung speculated that the image was a Rosicrucian engraving from the 17th century. The eminent art historian Erwin Panofsky also thought the illustration was from the 17th century, while his colleague Ernst Gombrich judged it to be modern. In 1970, Jung's associate Marie-Louise von Franz reproduced and discussed the image in her book Number and Time, where it was captioned, "The Whole Open to Eternity, the Spiritual Pilgrim Discovering Another World." Von Franz suggested the image might be a 19th century woodcut. And it was traced to Flammarion's book by Arthur Beer. So, as you see here, they actually never figured it out. And I mean, it continues here, the whole history of trying to figure out the source of this image. And interestingly, this is interesting. However, in 2002, Hans-Gerhard Sanger, an expert on the works of Nicholas of Cusa. Now, I don't know if you've heard of Nicholas of Cusa. It gets pretty esoteric, but it's a name I haven't really seen written anywhere since studying Neoplatonism in university. And Nicholas of Cusa, I don't remember too much. I just remember it was kind of like philosophy and what seemed like geometry. Circles and this kind of mysticism based in this kind of Platonic mathematical system. It makes me want to return. So here you have some scholar, an expert on the works of Nicholas of Cusa, argued against the image having been first created by Flammarion. So pretty interesting. Just a brief history, a snippet of some of the history of this fascinating image, which Daniel W. has done a spectacular job on here. As we continue our journey, and speaking of which, H.P. Lovebucks is going to be on talking about post-Americana. And of course, you may be familiar with H.P. Lovebucks from the Evel Knievel works that we saw, I think the Dukes of Hazzard. And so kind of playing with these kind of iconic American images, we're going to ask H.P. Lovebucks all about that. A very interesting artist. And I think I brought something, hilarious. I mean, I find, Evel Knievel, even just this is by H.P. Lovebucks, by the way. I just find this is an amazing kind of, fragment, so to speak, visual fragment of America here. Evel Knievel, the name, the idea that I think this is probably like Las Vegas, jumping over the fountains at the casinos here. With his daredevil stunts, kind of amazing. Apparently, I remember reading about him once. Maybe it was when H.P. Lovebucks posted these works. And, inspiring figure. I think his body got totally mangled because it only takes a couple of crashes. It takes one crash. But if you do 2 or 3, so apparently he had some bad ones. So all to say, check that out. I don't know what H.P. Lovebucks is going to say, but I think it's going to be darn interesting. And big shout out to Ex-Mortal, Absurd Deity, and Acid Reindeer for this. A gift to Adrian Pocobelli celebrating his impossible dream of paring down Artist Journal to less than an hour. We appreciate you. And you sure, I feel it. It has been translated, message received in the sense. Thank you. It's really hilarious with your host here. Beautifully rendered in a collaboration here, and I think that's me with time, and inspired by the White Rabbit of Alice in Wonderland, who, like Pocobelli, is always fretting about there not being enough time. That is for sure. A base image, as I wrote in a comment, running. I sure relate to this one. A base image of Poco Bunny was created by Absurdity using Midjourney with an emphasis on stylizing Poco's awesome hair into rabbit ears while also containing an element of time. Textures were added by Texadelic, aka Acid Reindeer, in order to give the image, I think we have a work by Texadelic this show, in order to give the image a more dreamlike and Mad Hatter look and feel. Original composition sent to X for analog glitching. Totally rad. And sent over, I believe it's a 1 of 1, actually. So a 1 of 1 sent to me. So thank you. Deeply appreciate it. And here was another one. Never Enough Time, inspired by Pocobelli and his dedication to showcase an amazing art in Artist Journal. There is indeed never enough time for art. Yes, truer words were never spoken, at least from where I am right now. Original works inspired by White Rabbit of Alice in Wonderland, who, like Pocobelli, is always fretting about there not being enough time. So also created by Absurdity, using Midjourney, and textures were added by Texadelic. So they have a couple here. And there is Alice falling through time here. I love it. You got to love this community. Edition of 17, thanks for sending me one. And let's see how it's doing here. Sold out. Wonderful. Got to love that. Let's go to the comments with this super fun. That's Spiegel's work. Just unbelievable. A lot of people commented on that, including Spiegel's coming up. Here's Louis JPD, and I'm really glad Louis wrote in here. Thanks for always nourishing. Thanks for the always nourishing journal presentation, Professor. Prof, about an hour ago, wrote a long explanation here about my reasoning behind not mentioning the artist who inspired my piece, Offspring. So we're discussing the Gozo work, which was starting to get kind of homages to it, which again is totally legit. So I don't want to look at what we just looked at, and I'm not, and again, and there's so much copying in the space and in art in general that a homage, it's just, and I was bringing up, this should be credited, but it wasn't meant as a calling out as is going to be discussed here. It was just meant as, anyways, let's continue. Monsieur Gozo, the artists who inspired my piece Offspring, Messieurs Gozo and Nick Shumika. It was some poetic, well-considered prose, and as is sometimes the case with our best works, it got disappeared in the inter-ether. Yes. Perhaps I forgot to save it. Damn, whatevs, I could just leave it, but I respect this show, its content, host, and contributors enough to take a deep breath and dive back in. I recall in the first Ghost draft mentioning Agatha Christie's Nightcap, as I was writing the side spiel upon waking, I decided to keep things a touch mysterious. I knew that Artie Sluice, if interested, could check the history and see them listed as pre-mint transfers, smoking guns. Nick Shumika mentions in his side panel they created a homage out of frustration and having missed out on collecting Gozo's seminal work. Of course, we saw that work the day before that, the show before. Well, I missed out on both of them and decided impulsively that I could keep the narrative running and do a second tribute. A tribute to the tribute and the original. And I think this is actually a pretty awesome idea. And I love the idea, actually. So impetuously, I gave it a shot and turned out okay. As you can see, both works referenced if you look and compare. Anyway, I agree with you, what you assert, that the original artist needs to be credited. And I fully agree. I didn't want to be piggybacking as part of the reason for the indirect call-out, but I also wanted the Columbo element. As a side note, part of me was hoping that someone would grab the baton and do a V4 and V5. Exactly. Digital art especially calls out for this, right? In a sense, it's like we have in techno or, electronic music, whether it's hip-hop or dance music or whatever the case is, remixing, right? Of course, I would expect credit, third in the list, might still happen. And I think it's a brilliant idea. And I think it's actually crying out to be done. So thank you for the comment. Watch this space is all I have to say. I am working on stuff. I got a very weird message this morning. And I may be going to Bangkok to help actually alleviate this problem. To not be too mysterious on this. Just working with a couple of devs that I met in Argentina, and who knows if any of this actually turns out. I just read a message, but apparently we won some sort of one of these kind of crypto, hackathon type contests. Anyways, thank you, Louis, and thank you for sharing that. And that's exactly the impression I got. So I hope it didn't seem like too much of a call out on my side. It's like, hey, you should put the credit. What are you doing? That is not the intention. It was sort of like just, hey, let's all put the credit, because there is a lot of actual copying in the space. So inoculate yourself, as I wrote to Louis in the comment, in the reply, inoculate yourself by putting, so then at least nobody can say anything, and homages happen all the time, right? But make sure to mention, that's what my opinion, for what that's worth, and it sounds like Louis agrees. So all's well that ends well. To quote our wonderful friend, William Shakespeare, Jan Lucas Magone, the first piece is a banger, great discoverer. Indeed, Spiegels is one of the greats of this space, isn't he? Brilliant and original and wonderful. Hasdrubal Waffle, awesome to hear from you. Hi, thank you, Poco. Those Spiegels Meskina pieces are incredible. Hot damn. Indeed. So original, and you really puts his own spin on the PFP project. Solilu, nice pieces in Journal 365. Absolutely. There's a lot of stunning pieces. Thank you for the comment. Spiegels Maskinen, caught in the act of making a PFP project. But oh my, I couldn't dream of a better presentation of the first computer heads. Thank you so much, dear Adrian. I'm proud to be on the cover of your incredible journal. Well, that is wonderful to hear. And as I was saying, one of my all-time favorite PFP projects for sure. And as he also says, to be honest, doing PFPs was a bit of a tough decision. I promised myself to never depict any human figures at all, but rules should be broken, right? Indeed, and somehow being an NFT artist, I guess one had to do a PFP series. It's kind of its own genre. It kind of is, and I've thought about that too, and not necessarily thinking I need to put the person, but just putting, elements, so to speak, So all to say, yeah, wonderful to hear from you, Spiegels, and just fabulous work. Congratulations on the sales, too. Armilk, today is Buju Bunoing's birthday. I think you showed it more than once, too. I really like his work. It has a lot of interesting textures and colors. I believe I am following Buju. Excellent. And so interesting pixel artist. And wait till you hear who's back. I'll leave that as in a few tabs you're going to find out. So thank you for highlighting that, Armilk. Jada, amazing art on the show. Thanks you so much for showing my work. My pleasure. Armilk, oh my God, how many juicy works I saw. Thank you very much. Absolute pleasure. Kiro, yes, need to binge to watch recent Pocobellies. Indeed, you're in the show a couple of times here, Kiro. Roon Toon, the video isn't showing up on YouTube, by the way. Yeah, that was a delay. If I overwork my internet, then if I have a meeting, my internet will not work and everything. So I actually had to wait to upload the YouTube. Thank you for letting me know, though, because there have been a couple of times where I actually just forgot to hit publish, or maybe once I think I even forgot to upload to YouTube. Anyway, so thank you for letting me know, Roon Toon. We'll see you later on today on The Space. Wonderful co-host, brilliant artist, as you're going to see here shortly. Inherent Liberation, such a blessing you're giving to the community. Big love, and thank you for making these, and hilarious. Thank you for the wonderful comments, good vibes, and beautiful art, my friend, and taking a look quickly at the community. And we're going to get into this in a second. Luke 500 just posting my 2 cents on Foundation. So Foundation, as far as I understand, one of the major platforms. They even kind of had base integration, interestingly, and they actually had quite a bit of movement, I think, a few months ago on base, right? My 2 cents on Foundation. So they have decided, from what I understand, I think they're just kind of going into, I don't want to call it stall mode, but where they just aren't going to do updates anymore, as far as I understand. Private companies do whatever it pleases them, rightfully so. Also, I never heard its founder say they're shutting down their marketplace. Right, Rodeo.club has a different value proposition. In other words, artists should not rely on platforms they don't control. And we'll get into that a little bit, because I'm not sure if Foundation is a shared contract or not. This comes up later, so we'll discuss this later. And that's kind of exactly what I thought. Like, as long as the website isn't breaking, like, do you need much of a team? As long as the fees are being paid for the server of the website where it's being hosted, I'm not sure, does it make a huge difference? It would be hilarious if Foundation kind of had a second win without the people, running it, which would be pretty hilarious. Thank you, Nahid, also for posting here, just posting as we talk here. Also, Simulacro. In 2002, gathered 500 people to move a dune in Peru. Our video disrupts space like his, reflecting on collective art, perseverance, and anonymous authorship while interacting with a large mountain. And so here is the wonderful people at Simulacro. Let me get the audio. I love the vibe of their works. Looks like a lot of work goes into these, eh? It looks like original footage, if I had to guess. Oh, to Argentina, and this kind of CGI meets real life, seemingly. Thank you, Simulacro, for posting rad artists. What a wonderful post to have in the community. MR Rero thread here, and I'll be careful here for the flashing image. New collection on object.com, Artificiala Corolla. And this is 10 Tezos for one of ones, and part of a series. Very cool. Retro Manny, evolving my style a little. Retro Man universe is heating up, so it looks like Retro Man is going to have company here, getting ready for a new chapter. Pretty tantalizing, Retro Manny. We'll be looking for that. Roon Toon. So the co-host, look at this. Trong, mixed media, digital, physical, still feels good to go back to still drawing and painting. Indeed, and we're going to see Luciana Guerra mention that too, the importance of going back to physical and how they inform each other. So mixed media, digital/physical still. Feels good to go back to drawing/painting. Very cool, original work here from Roon Toon. So very nice addition and recognizably Roon Toon. So we'll have to ask Roon Toon about that on today's show in our opening introductions. Mira with a new work, Overpressurized. So cool illustration here by Mira. Again, kind of a Ralph Steedman, but with more color and kind of a little bit more abstract. Very cool work there. Thank you for posting. Louis JPD. I made this freestyle arty video piece to accompany a segment of one of my Ableton tracks. And then I saw my friend Little Cakes post about Pachinko. So I think I added some of that, which led to spontaneously composing a mini memoir to go with. So here are some of these wonderful synthesizers here and spontaneity. I've been watching interviews with Tom Cruise, who I think is a very interesting figure. Just in terms of the, whatever people think about Tom Cruise, someone who's performing at his highest, you'd argue, his highest level, which is why I was watching. I was like, I hadn't looked. I watched some of the movies on the plane, and I saw The Edge of Tomorrow. And I don't watch that many movies, but I was like, that was a great film. And a very charismatic actor. So, all to say, one of the things he was saying was his appreciation for spontaneity, to your point, Louis, which stimulated this whole tangent here, and how when he acts, he's not trying to be mechanical about it. He's trying to capture spontaneity. He doesn't want to just rehearse and say his lines. He wants to be in the moment. And I thought that was quite interesting. Something we do here. I was kind of delighted to see that because it's like, this is not, some scripted show. The tabs are the script, in a sense, and that's as far as it goes. An improvisation every time. So thank you for posting. Very cool work there, Louis. And here's Kurt Hustle Collective. We're going to see this. I love it. The mirror. The wonderful Kurt Hustle Collective. We're going to take a closer look in the tabs here. Thank you for posting and bringing that to my attention. Strange thing. Hi, friends. I have a new solo show coming to Rome. Running from the 30th of October to January 2025. I'm going to be in Rome. If any of you are visiting Rome during this time, please feel free to drop by. I sure will, and thank you for posting this. I'll have to go. When do I go to Rome? November 14th. I go for 2 trips of 3 days, so it's going to be a short visit. But I am going twice, so I will make it a priority to go to this. Thank you for posting, Strange Thing. Looking forward to seeing that. And I think we saw this. Thank you, everybody. I love this kind of automated newspaper called The Community here. A wonderful thing. Kayvon. So I don't know if you'd call him the CEO, building Rodeo.club and Foundation. The person, Rob used to be the person, and now it's Kayvon at Foundation, right? So kind of runs Foundation and Rodeo, which are from the same team as far as I understand. We recently rebranded Foundation Instagram account to center on Rodeo.club. Here's why. The Foundation Instagram account scaled up massively in 2021. That audience has largely checked out and believes NFTs are dead. It is true that whenever you bring up digital art, like, it doesn't impress anybody if you say like you're in NFT art. Like, it does. It's like if I say I'm doing a show on NFT art, it's not like people are like, that's can't wait to check it out. Like sometimes like they do and they're just kind of curious, but this is the first comment you get is, I thought that was dead. We want to reach the Instagram community with a new message and brand rooted in a form factor that we believe can scale to millions of people. And we'll discuss this a little bit. So again, these kind of 25-cent mints. My take on this is that I don't believe that the mainstream is going to come on to post their work for 10 cents each. I actually think the Foundation model, to me, it wasn't doing bad. If you ask me, it wasn't doing bad at all in terms of like until Rodeo kind of cannibalized it. And maybe, who knows, maybe it's the right thing for them. It matters that we onboard millions of people because we need to expand the market. I mean, I don't see them onboarding that many people, frankly, from, so-called Web3. So if those people aren't interested, is the mainstream even going to be interested? And you see it from a collecting point of view, too. And I don't know if you've ever collected. I finally kind of swallowed my pride, so to speak, and collected on a Rodeo just because Waffles was putting out all this work, especially the one with all the eyes. And I was like, how can I not buy that for 25 cents? But honestly, it's a much different collector mindset in a sense. I almost think it's like, I don't want to call it annoying, but it leans towards that when it's like, oh, there's another work and I have to go and get it. And it's like, I got to click this button a few times, which is so different from if these were minted on Object, for example, or even as one of ones on Ethereum, you'd be like, oh, I got to run and get that. And maybe my $20 offer will be accepted. Right. So so even from an artist's point of view, like I can understand putting just sketches and whatever, sure, as people have said. Anyways, let's continue. We're not passively sitting around waiting for the market to come back. It's so, I mean, as Luke 500 said, everybody has their own business and are free to pursue it. But you know what's interesting? Like, what does this remind you of? It's Zora, right? Like, it's sort of like Zora was second to come to this kind of, we'll do like almost like a free mint sort of thing, literally free, not like a $2 or $3 one, but a 20-cent one. And forget about in a sense, to a certain degree, at least this is how it was interpreted, forget about the artists. That's how artists interpreted it. Like, who cares about the artists? We don't care about what you're going to be paid. We're going to do this, what are they calling it? Like art coins, which sounds like art coins. I don't know if like degen type behavior, so to speak, or degen type economics is going to resonate with the mainstream. I think their mainstream, once they get around getting a crypto wallet, they can go, oh, there's a piece of artwork and then I buy it and whatever. Not, here's a low liquidity coin that goes up 10x and then I buy it and then it crashes 80%, which is kind of what the art coin thing looks like to me. So I don't see that as like from a values perspective, which is kind of the issue, I would argue. That's why the mainstream has turned off crypto. It's a values thing, I would argue. And so by pushing these so-called art coins, and I don't know if this is what Rodeo is doing, but it looks like that's what Zora is doing. I just don't see that working from from the values perspective. And I don't see that onboarding, like degen behavior, onboarding the masses. It's the opposite. And if anything, it's even turning off the local people in Web3. So interesting. Time, the artist formerly known as Santiago. Goodbye, Foundation. You're great, even if you don't feature my work or support me in any way. And of course, I follow the artist formerly known as Santiago. That's a glitch on X when you open several tabs. So, you know what I thought about this? I think it's totally fair Here's someone who has posted, a billion times in the community, has posted a billion artworks, and I'm sure has posted on Foundation, and never once featured their work, right? And a good artist, right? It's not like, so I thought that was a fair comment, Sabato RIP Foundation can't wait to spend all $30 delisting and burning the unsold art on there. So kind of funny sarcasm there from Sabato. Unknown Collector. Foundation is the hot topic. So again, referring to this NFT digital art platform on Ethereum, but also on Base, which is a layer 2 on Ethereum, for those that are wondering or trying to get their heads around this. A good reason to write long form again after quite some time. First of all, everyone can relax. Foundation is still functioning. The pivot to Rodeo and the decision just to maintain the platform has been visible for months now. So I guess it's kind of in maintenance mode, so to speak. It's not growing. They're not developing it. But you know what this brings up, though? IPFS. Who's paying for the IPFS fees, right? Is that going to become an issue? Are they going to continue? Do we need to back this stuff up? Of course you do. And it brings up the issue of on-chain. Just saying, I want to take a moment to thank the Foundation team for bringing early innovations and ideas to the scene. They introduced a fun and great user experience, their own smart contracts, a decentralized curation model, and many other things that were brilliant at the time. And they always delivered it exceptionally well. I would have to agree with that. It's sort of like Zora. They did the hard work. They built credibility in this space. They got artists to believe in the product and seeing it as a credible platform. And there were sales that were being made. And so it's kind of, it makes you wonder why they would abandon it. And I think it's just, I think it's coming from if I had to speculate, a heavily tech mindset, which is just not seeing the art picture as well as I think they could. I think. Let's continue with Unknown Collector. I've always been a big fan of Foundation. The energy on the platform was great. And I collected so much art, supporting over 500 individual artists. I mean, there was a time, I think I said it on this show maybe a year ago, where I was saying, Foundation has eaten, Super Rare's lunch. I even remember minting a work on Super Rare, so it'd be on the Super Rare contract, and then listing it on Foundation because I thought there'd be better opportunity to sell it there. And I think it was also part of a curated show. Actually, it was part of the thing. I think Lagojo put a show together. I'll always be grateful to them for sparking my interest in art. So, again, they did a lot of hard work, and they were around for a while too for crypto years. Like they're around since 2020 probably. However, when the multi-year bear market hit hard and AI-generated images flooded the platform, it exposed some flaws in their approach to building a sustainable platform, in my opinion. What went wrong? Foundation always aimed to capture attention and volume with big releases and innovative products, but they seemed to overlook the smaller, important details. They grew too fast in the hype, which became hard to maintain. And I think the key at the end of the day is if you're going to have an art business, you have to make it about the art, because that's kind of, and when you see Zora move off to this other model, and you see Foundation move off to this other model, it makes the artists are kind of left like, as you see here, the same skepticism you saw towards Zora, wondering like, why would you do this? You've done all the hard work here, and the only explanation I can find in my own mind is maybe they didn't quite understand what they had. Right? That's just my take. And feel free to comment if you think otherwise. Let's continue. One area where they consistently fell short was in making it easy and fun for collectors to use the platform. Indeed, discovery was an issue. They didn't provide enough incentives for collectors to engage with their platform beyond buying new drops, which can quickly become boring. Collectors want to find hidden gems from 2021, browse and filter through their own collection, and search what's for sale in respected collectors' collections. Yeah, like if they enabled artists to curate more on their own, and organize things, it probably would have helped. Simple stuff like that. That's why I love Object, indeed. The user experience makes it easy to explore my collection and also rediscover early minted pieces within different mediums. It's like Ethereum needs an Object, or really what needs to happen is probably Object needs to go multi-chain. would be my controversial take on that one. Another crucial aspect in Web3, something I've been calling for a couple of years, actually. Another crucial aspect in Web3 is making the community feel heard and valued. Object does this well. Their small, hardworking team involves as many artists as possible in daily curations and spotlights. And they're, improving at this all the time. Because the curation, they did change in about, I want to say a year ago, where you can tell they really were trying to get smaller artists and everything. And they're probably doing that before, but you see that there's an attempt to evolve, get better. They're passionate about art, and it shows, indeed. In my opinion, Foundation never paid enough attention to these community details. They didn't need to during the bull market, but it became a problem later. When Rob joined Foundation, I thought they were heading in the right direction. People felt motivated to use the platform again, but the numbers probably didn't reflect this change enough. Again, showing they grew too big too fast in the bull, and this was affecting them. And it's kind of a quality versus quantity thing. Because, there were a lot of people, you'd get Ratcloak, you'd get Ed Marola, you'd get Santiago, you'd get RJ, all of these very interesting artists among many, many other artists here, posting on the platform. And, that wasn't necessarily happening in 2021, 2020 when they were making all the money, right? So again, it's kind of like if numbers are your only thing, you might miss the forest for the trees, or however you want to say that. They were on the right path, focusing on community inclusion and care, but it didn't prove profitable enough. Back to kind of the tech crypto ecosystem, probably, and maybe VCs, right? I genuinely wish them the best with Rodeo, and I hope they continue to maintain Foundation and the shared contract to keep the pieces secure. Right. Maybe if another bull market comes, probably if you minted any, you might want to send them to another I don't know how it works. Maybe if another bull market comes, they'll have funds to revive the platform. That would be my dream. And yeah, so, it's kind of like Zora. It's like, oh, darn, that's gone, says a collector. As for Rodeo, it's not for me. It's focused on amassing and accumulating, which I already went through during the bull market with more expensive art, and it brought more problems than benefits. Now I want to collect consciously and thoughtfully. We're just on different paths now, but always be grateful to Foundation for everything. Yeah, it's quite interesting. I would say it's like a major brand, so to speak, in the space, Foundation, just like Zora had done almost the Herculean task of getting the artists to come over. Only, and at least this is the perception, Zora would probably have a different, sentiment here, but from the artist's perception, only to be abandoned, right? From a financial point of view, and say, no, you don't want to do Zora, and actually you can't even use that platform anymore. Now you got to use the new Zora, and you can only charge 20 cents rather than $3, which is a different thing. So, interesting comment from Unknown Collector. I can't go through everything here. Batsoup Yum, I sympathize with Foundation for having to pivot during a very difficult bear market. Further, I no longer think it's possible to survive long-term as a standalone art platform in Web3. Artists can mint anywhere now and handle the distribution themselves, mostly poorly, to be honest, which brings me to what I think is next. In my opinion, the next phase is distribution. Creators need it badly, and new collectors want it. That's why trad galleries can command a 50% rake or royalty. There's a business in there somewhere that's waiting to be solved, and I've yet to see anyone get close. But, is crypto really about the middle person? And maybe it is. The market will determine that we need a middle person, someone in the middle to, make everything happen. But kind of the nice thing is you can market yourself on social media, build an audience, and then collect 90% of the take, sometimes more. And then you give Object your 2% or whatever it is. Very, very reasonable, or super rare. I think it's 10 or 15. I'm not sure what it is, but it's a little higher from what I remember. So interesting. Santiago, social minting has onboarded like 5 people to digital art collecting. These new collectors spend $5 a decade all lined together on their collections. And this is the thing. I am if the people in the space are barely using Rodeo, and I don't know if that's the case, but that's the impression I have. Why would the mainstream? It's sort of, cats will eat you. Social minting has onboarded thousands of people to digital art collecting. So these new collectors all spend maybe $5 to $10 a year on their collections. So some people think, social minting, as it's being called here, has onboarded thousands of people. I wonder if that's true. Like, it seems, I'd be surprised, but maybe it's true. Artie Hands, if you're selling art on a shared contract in 2024, you're doing it wrong. So thank you, Artie Hands, for bringing this up, because is that what we're dealing with? Like on Foundation? And someone was saying super rare too. I don't know really what this, like, what do you mean shared contract? And what does that involve? I'm just some artist minting my work, right? And now you're saying, I once minted a work, I think it was Throne, and it was kind of like this she NFT digital art platform. When I minted it, it went to their wallet. Like, I don't have that work in my wallet. I kind of love that work too. There are a couple of remixes of the Related Images series, and then the website's down. So buy works, right? So maybe to Artie Hand's point. Now, Santiago is a Codal. There is a solution for this. Stored on chain forever directly on Bitcoin's UTXOs. No contract needed. So I believe this is with stamps, if I'm not mistaken. Santiago is a Codal, really emphasized in the past the immutability of stamps, and I think that's what's going on here. Crisp, scaleless SVG done by hand is pure text, claimable silkscreen print. And so here it is. So SVG is a way of making works small and actually adding colors and even gradients. It's a very interesting format, SVG. So one to look into. Mech.txt, who of course I follow. Now that I'm allowed to say it, I've got more things to announce. Very proud to say that my in-real-life studio is now working on Object.com, and Object One's graphic system and credentials starting from now. We're well-seasoned, disciplined, and ready to work some of the applied designs, and so Mech.txt doing work for Object. This looks great, by the way. This Lorna Mills photo, so very nice design there. Here's another one. Open Call, and some other works. So pretty interesting. And there's Noodler. So look who's back, Gio Mariani. And I actually, I was like, if I mention this, people are going to pick through, perhaps, are going to pick through. So I had to buy. I just bought for full transparency. I just bought 4 works by Gio Mariani, early pixel artist. Ed Marola, sang the praises of, Gio Mariani as an inspiration for starting his art on the space that we did. So in 2020, 2021, so a very kind of important figure here, I would argue, in pixel art. Gio Mariani, new profile picture, The Return of the Face, so October 16th. So there are a few works posted on X by Gio Mariani that are in the pixel art section here, which I'm excited about, and I'm excited to see new work, because I think that's what's coming, which is why I show Gio Mariani there. So exciting times. Luciana Guerra, who of course I follow. I love coming from digital to physical art. It's a need, and each kind of painting gets feedback from the other. How true is that? And I just think that's true. And that is why I share it. A cute observation there from Luciana Guerra, and beautiful painting, by the way. It's very interesting how it's transforming kind of what you bring to a physical work now, and likewise how working physically transforms your digital way of looking at things. Hasdrubal Waffle, here's the outlier from the triptych. So I guess what we saw last show, it's on Foundation. That is hilarious. I guess last show we saw it sold. Wow. And October 22nd, so this was just minted yesterday, and Zoltar made an offer at 0.1. So now where was this originally posted? Were these on Zora? I can't remember. These were on Object, the original triptych. And I love how this is being called a triptych, because it kind of gives this almost kind of significance, added significance to those 3 works we saw being a triptych. Start thinking of like Francis Bacon and altarpieces and whatnot. So here, the original inspiration sells 0.1 ETH on Foundation. So now, it's going to be pretty interesting. I'm like, wouldn't it be hilarious? I was thinking to myself, I think I mentioned it earlier, if all of a sudden the artists start, if Foundation keeps trucking along, basically, interesting. Because, Zora would have, if they just kept it going, Zora would have kept going. Like, I'm sure of it. So interestingly, let's dribble waffle cucumber. So this is on Rodeo, as you see here. So three more works here by Waffles. And you see the radicality here. Here's a pretty fun one. And you see the wild frame and whatever this figure is here, outlined, some beautiful shoes, looking like using different softwares. And you got to love in using a different brush here and making it look really easy, isn't he? And this awesome green frame. Here's another one using this profile from before. I remember making a painting like this, actually, way back when. What did I call it? My life, my ego, my death. And then I put all the aspects of my life around. That was part of the Futures and Options series, around the head here. And then I think I put a big submit button. Anyways, here's Waffles with some wonderful pixelation going on here. And look at the kind of the different animations. Here you have just like this kind of, for lack of a better term, just kind of jiggling here. And then here you get kind of a much different kind of animation. So combining different kinds of animation, interestingly. And here's one more, tryptophan, which I believe is a chemical in the brain. And here you see a massive brain here. And look at this great piece here. So kind of digital expressionists, one would be tempted to call. They called Basquiat a neo-expressionist, right? Kind of has that expressionist, it's expressive, right? And look at these great textures here again, and even here, kind of getting the hard kind of square pixels, but then blurring them out, making it look easy. It's not easy to kind of break all these rules and then go, here's my art, and then making it look persuasive, as Waffles does. A great artist. Speaking of great artists, here's Zozo. Fantastic artist here. Super cool. What is this called? Ecosystem. It's like a digital ecosystem. Wild one. This is an edition of 12. Let me fix the mic here. Gently, tenderly, and it went for 15 Tezos each for 12. So Suozo, going from like what seemed like 20 Tezos, one of ones, in a few months is now selling, 15 Tezos for editions of 12. The market likes Suozo, and fantastic. I mean, rad. You can see why, right? I mean, just there's something very magical about Suozo's work. Here's Yuri J. Green Knight in retirement, and kind of there's something about Yuri J's work that there's almost like this cartoonish humor. You see it in the eyes here, and just these figures, the octopus, and then here you have this, whoever this is, with a hat. There is a humor, and there is the octopus on the cover of this book, and what looks like a big frog, with these beautiful textures again, and these wonderful glasses with signature mosaic filter in there, and all of these different Photoshop filters layered on top of each other, bringing about these wonderful, if I was Photoshop, I'd be like, this is our guy. This is our, representative here of what you're supposed to do with these filters that hardly anybody uses. I would argue, other than the sharpen, the Gaussian blur, I mean, very few people, you almost never see these filters being used. And look at how great the glasses are. And even the backwards writing. Is that a Pepe? Question mark. Ha ha. Exactly. That is the big question when you see the red of the lips. Tired Horses. This is Uxine. It was a really interesting piece, playing with a bit of a kind of weird reflection coming through a window for a couple of minutes here. Look at the color. I love how the color is continuing to evolve. And here, this kind of angel from the sky with the skeletons and playing with the horse's head. Kind of a shout out to a certain degree to the earlier what I call the metaphysical works, but also perhaps in its own way, kind of a Damien Hirst-esque reference with these kind of, what would you call it? There's an anatomical term for when you cut down the middle, transliteral or something. There are different kinds of cuts you can do with names on them. And kind of seems like a reference to a certain degree of Damien Hirst. And here is an Apache helicopter with a happy face and upside down or some sort of warning sign. And there's, look at that beautiful palm tree. That could be a work in itself. That stunning palm tree. And the card deck, yeah, so all to say, rad work from Uxine on Object. And that pixelated, that hard pixelated halo. Got the word here. Tired Horses, cool title, edition of 22. Let's just see what it sold for. All of the flippers here sold for 22 Tezos, pretty reasonable. Now 38 on secondary. And here's RJ with a few works. This is part of a series, The Cockbite. And so here, there are the roosters, I believe. And here you see another kind of work working with what seems to be selection and different, what looks like different kind of pixelated outputs, so to speak. And interesting textures here, isn't there? Just kind of letting it bleed onto the side. Nice and kind of painterly, isn't it? Great textures. Here's one, 404 Tezos. That's an edition of 1 still available. This one was pretty nice too, the look, AI and pixel painting. So probably using AI as the source and then starting to process that work in, with AI, and then playing with all these textures that you get from the different outputs, and then just different exporting styles, different kinds of pixelation you see on the left. Really nicely done, great colors there. Kind of almost like Greek pottery type colors. Edition of 1, that one sold to, who bought that? Dr. Lee NFT. Here's another one, The Rain, still available, 333 Tezos. So nice work here, and nice kind of edgy pixelated arms. And here's another one, The Embrace, and this is still available, 333 Tezos. So again, great textures here, wonderfully painterly, and even going a little bit fuzzy here, I think, interestingly. So taking risks there. The Dance, here's another one, slightly different color scheme on this one. I think this one sold, and kind of a bit more of a kind of animation, so to speak, or dynamism, so to speak. This one's still available, 404 Tez, and nice contrast here between the hard edge and the bodies here that have a bit more of a kind of organic feel. And the Bather, which is owned by Neon Monk, 333 Tezos. And again, similar idea, and this great stuff like you see in the upper left-hand corner, and up here, again, all this kind of irrational painterliness. And here, again, different kinds of retro outputs, seemingly. And I believe that was it, and that is Enigmatris with more ASCII art. Let's see if we can make it bigger. So another cool combination, and again, I feel like every work we look at by Enigmatris is playing with ASCII in a different way, to their credit. And here you see what I call visual ASCII, like this stuff, overlapping with the letters. And these kinds of decisions, I mean, making a lot of interesting decisions like that, not easy to make, I'd argue. This is quite effective. And again, you see colored visual ASCII here, all quite good and almost looking like a phone here, but it's probably a card, probably a reference to an old, and you even see like the original image here, interestingly. Is it AI? I don't think so. So almost using, like as we saw in the other ones, using original artworks. Here's another one, Skulls number 2. So again, another kind of, I don't know if I'd call it a pastiche, but a remix of a certain kind, Skulls. So let me just bring this up larger. As you see here, the visual ASCII, and like really using it in a painterly way here. I love it. It's like using a paintbrush in a certain way here, maybe even going off of the grid, so to speak. Like it looks like he's going off the grid, if you know what I mean. It's not the geometric, or maybe it's the different kind of ASCII here with these kind of almost twisting. They almost look like chains. Tons of creativity in every day, 20 trees. So it looks like he's able to be quite productive here too. And look at how huge this is. So, I mean, really 20 different works here posted with all of these different experiments. Having a lot of fun as he continues, I think it's a he, as they continue to, just experiment here with ASCII text and imagery. Very cool. Juana Pedro, am I really back on Zora? I hope so. This looks great, or I hope you're back somewhere. Another super interesting abstract from Juana Pedro. Immediately recognizable, too. Probably need a Juana... I don't know if I have a Juana Pedro in my collection, but I kind of need one. Dan Control, watch out for Steamboat Willie. So this is on Zora. So pretty hilarious. Reusing elements, putting them in black and white is the decision, hilariously, just desaturating everything. And you see a lot of these elements from previous Dan controls, whether it's the shoes, having two right... Is that... No. Okay, there's a right shoe and a left shoe, but backwards. Steamboat Willie, and then kind of a balaclava and a e-cigarette, perhaps. Pretty hilarious. Here's another one by Dan Control, which came up in the art market, Ticket, which at first I thought was kind of like a photo, but this is actually Dan Control doing a gradient here. So pretty cool work here. Again, kind of like this neo-pop, so to speak, digital pop. Ticket, edition of 10, and 30 Tezos, one sold. Funny thing about Dan Control is those will probably eventually all sell. Like they, all of a sudden we'll get a tweet 3 months later, like they all sold. Thank you, everybody. That's generally how it works. Here's Recollapse with an interesting GIF painting. Kind of has a physical element. Joy Will Find You, as well as digital. And no info on, I think, how it was made, but I think it's primarily digital. There may be, I think even the textures, I believe, are digital as well. Not positive, but it looks like it. These look like textured brushes here, so to speak. So cool digital painting here from Recollapse. A lot of fun and a lot going on. Kind of like this whole almost urban scene, even a guy on a flying carpet. Joy Will Find You. Cool work. Edition of 10. Sold out at 5 Tezos. Strange Thing picking one up. Yuri J. And more. Ice Stadium. So I think that means ice rink, maybe in German, I would assume. But ice sometimes can mean ice cream. So I'm not... Ice Stadium. And here, just a nice painting posted on X by Ecam1225. I'm not sure. I assume that's their work. And just a cool little monster and everything. Cool work. This is on Super Rare, Miss Cigarette, and hilarious. So we saw the lemonade. Now we see the Myth cigarettes, as you see here. So Myth on a what looks like a cigarette box. At first I thought it was like a book cover or of some kind, bookcase, so to speak. And then here's the UPC or the barcode. This keeps happening, these pop-ups for me. I think it's because I have Phantom. Anyways, the wallet. So cool work by Myth. Would go really well with that lemonade piece. Interesting kind of landscape in the background. Reserve of 0.3 ETH. Here's Kappa Sage Harakiri. And Harakiri, and I believe that's when you apply the knife, so to speak, to yourself in, I think, Japanese culture, but I could be totally wrong about that. There's a CryptoPunk on this person, one of the V for Vendetta people, Guy Fawkes masked, Bored Ape, kind of reminiscent a little bit of Rat Cloak and those early works with the commentary on the crypto culture. And there's the Virgin Mary. So wild work here. Another one by Kappa Sage, interesting piece, edition of 1 at auction. So you can get a 1 of 1 Kappa Sage for 27 Tezos. Nice colors on there. Here's Louis Osborne with Halloween work, Bubbling Away. And check out the pumpkins. Nice color contrast here, as well as the green in this piece, and the ghosts going by, almost like a video game. And then we see, of course, the happy faces bubbling in this cauldron here. Nice cityscape in the background. Pretty nice piece by Louis Osborne, edition of 100. And is that sold out? Sold out at 2 Tezos. Nice work. Here is Jake Studios, Unidentified Flying Object, OBJKT. Right-click Save Us, and here, this is another Object 98 work, I think. Object Paint 98, awesome. So Jake Studios enjoying himself on Object 98 using the browser painting. And there, look at that. There's something to be said for working fast and just having limited tools, and it's It's going to be interesting if Jake Studios keeps doing this to see where it goes. It kind of inspires me to want to do it myself. Edition of Zeros, this may have been burnt, but there may be a new one. Kubilaya Dabas, Matinee. I thought this was a cool illustration here. I think Absurdity. I think I was looking at their collection, and I think it was in their collection. Nice piece. Nice artist. I hadn't discovered before. Yeah, Absurdity. Picked one up, so a new discovery. Let me make sure I'm following them, because I don't think I am. Discovery for me, so nice piece. Love that, kind of inside a theater. Here's Francoise Gamma on Rodeo. And so here, another take on the body, and here you go. So pretty cool work as Francoise Gamma continues to explore the human body in all of its manifestations. Pretty cool. Cyber Mystic, new drop tomorrow. So Marcelo Pinel. Look at this. I mean, this in itself is kind of a sellable work here. You know who could release a coloring book? Right? Marcelo Pinel could release a coloring book. Like, that would be rad. Marcelo Pinel's coloring book, or whatever you would call that. This is money. So a work in progress, and that comes today. Something to look forward to. Windows Still Life by John. So cool. Another cool Halloween work here. As we enter the season, and a big spider in one of these iconic windows, really. I like the dots on the tiles to darken it a little bit, and just a cool vibe with these orange apples, orange-looking apples, which is interesting too. Interesting decision. Francoise Gamma again. This is on Rodeo, which is on bass. Nice, this is a thing. Like, if you have a ton of work and just want to put an experiment like this, you might as well, right? Like, how many were minted here? 46, right? So if all of a sudden you're getting like $12, I mean, that's not bad. If you're just kind of knocking stuff out and say, hey, here's a cool experiment, boom, $12. So, you don't want to be too hard on Rodeo. Maybe there is a time and a place, and every artist is different. And, when I see something like that, I go, okay, maybe, the 25-cent mint, and you do it times, 46, maybe that makes sense, right? That's like almost like 18 Tezos if you put it at auction, all right? Kristen Roos, color bars. So cool, more interesting, what would you call this? A pixel art abstract, retro tools, animated abstract with investigations into red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, a GIF. Edition of 15 for 15 Tezos, still available, and 5 gone so far. And those will sell out, I'm sure. Byte by Bit, Rit. Look at this. Nice piece by Byte by Bit. What kind of software has Byte by Bit found here? Graphics 2, 2007. Very nice piece. Love how Byte by Bit keeps the user interface in here. This is 15 Tezos, edition of 1, just minted. Here's another one, Zoxo, card. And so interesting piece. I think this is on Object and looking like it's using a card reader, a debit card reader or credit card reader, and kind of doing this interesting kind of, grid-like pixel art, right? Almost like checkerboard style pixel art. So this is an open edition, 9 minted so far at 1 Tezos 69. Here is mech.txt. Many jobs to finish here. Nice work here from Mech. Look at how loved this is too. 51 retweets, 350 likes. Very nice pixel art work by Mech. Here's another one. Let me make sure I'm bringing this up properly. Closing my Sunday night with Persistence of Life number 4. Beadwill, first one of one, fully on-chain artwork in Tezos. So also doing on-chain in Tezos. Interestingly, now that could be Twitter, because you see there's almost compression. It may be on purpose also. Sometimes, like you saw with RJ, it was on purpose, right? I suspect in Mech's case, this is an accident, but I'm not positive on that. It's tough. I have works that I don't post, pixel art works like of synths and whatever. I don't post them on Twitter because they're going to get distorted and then people are going to think that's the work. Look at this brilliant, gorgeous piece of work by Kyle Flemmer. Are you ready? Speaking of on-chain, This was stunning. Stunning work. Here, of course, it's fuzzed out when I make it larger. This is a mere, and sorry, let me go back here. This is a mere, let me see, 240 by 240 pixels, a mere 1.93 kilobytes. And this is the size. You see, like a Google ad would go to about here, right? 300 pixels. So utterly delightful. And I have to say, this one in particular, with the red lines, the little letter, the colors, this one really was stunning, I thought. And again, for those of us like myself that loves these kind of miniatures, so to speak, this is fabulous. Bullface, edition of 1, not listed, maybe wants to keep that one. Information, Microcosmos number 22. So here is a minimal one, 5 kilobytes. And it's interesting, this one has less colors, but maybe because there's less black, I have a feeling black doesn't take as much space, if any. So that last piece, which was only 2 kilobytes, it was because it was mostly black. Here you have a lot more color, so to speak, with the white and the gray, or just the gray. I think it's 3 colors in total. And there, that looks like a Mars lander. I mean, these are just, and you know what we're back to? Art for space. Art for space, right? Like, I mean, and maybe that's what Kyle Flemmer is thinking here. These early works of on-chain art, being traded back and forth through the solar system and through the galaxy, these tiny little works, where maybe, internet is expensive, even in the future when you are going through the galaxy. And so all of a sudden a little work, 5 kilobytes on-chain, survived whatever wars, right? Gorgeous work. Oh, and what I love about this, finally, it's like it takes the Ultima 4 ethos and recreates it as space art, right? And that is exciting, right? Because it takes that same perspective here, right? Where you see the little figure. This is probably the rover, I assume. Who knows? Just very, very nice work from Kyle Flemmer. Inspiring. Murakit, music is my religion. So who's not excited to see Murakit back? This wonderful artist who often does what seems like effects on effects, not sure on this one, but gets these wonderful textures, this incredibly original kind of pixel art, again, kind of traveling through the mediums from like animation or manga looking work, anime, and then kind of rough, which is a pretty smooth, right? These figures would be normally smooth, pixelating it out beautifully. Even some kind of church in the background, and there's the sky. Gorgeous work. Edition of 3, taking offers of 15 Tezos each. Absurdity and Yuri J, the lucky winners. Has made some gorgeous works that I wish I'd collected as free mints on Zora back in the day. Some of my favorite works, really. Emmy Pixel. Another cool work by Emmy Pixel, Ancient Rome. This is the forum. These famous columns here. And you gotta love the color on this work too. Very inspiring kind of pixel art work here. As we look over ancient Rome, the Roman Forum, you have to go. If you've never been, these famous columns standing up there. I'm sure they have names at this point. And I think this is, what is this called? I can't remember. This is a temple to Jupiter, or I can't remember. I should know that though. Gio Mariani is posting more interesting pixel art. So this was just October 17th. As you see here, look at these batteries with what looks like almost Japanese, but it's just computer writing. Looks like almost a fake language. And classic early pixel artist, at least on the blockchain here. Very interesting artist. Here's another one. As you see, just so exciting to see if Gio Mariani is going to come back. Look at this. With what looks like the Virgin Mary, but then kind of almost like a cubist kind of version, shall we say, and just cool animations and everything. Piedade. Is that Pietà? No, Piedade. I'm not sure what that means. So that is exciting. Here's another one, Tamasantal. And this is on Rodeo, but then There's object here is where you get, so interestingly, multi-chain, referring to the Tezos link, probably for the original part of this, the 3D version. I'm not sure though. Yeah, so you can't move it. This is on base. So not exactly sure what's going on here. I thought a nice abstract though. I think it's an abstract. Here is Kurt Hustle Collective. As I struggle to keep these shows, shorter. Even when I feel like I'm keeping the commentary short. Just awesome audio, great vision, great textures. Edition of 10 Tezos Mirror Dysmorphia. Oh, wow. Wow. So, watch the whole thing. Look at this. And apologies to the artists. Watch the whole thing. Go to object.com, watch the whole thing. Look at the richness of the textures here. Edition of 10 Tezos, and quite a few gone. How many are left here? 3 left. So wonderful to see those guys. Here's Curation, October 11th, Monsters and Creatures, owned by Yuri J. Nice piece, another nice piece by Curation. Kind of has a bit of almost like a cave painting kind of feel. A little, just nice brushwork, kind of cool pixelation, really interesting piece. Looks like it's almost like Ed Marola in the sense that you make the marks and then you start to see stuff and then you go, oh, maybe I could put some eyes here. Maybe that's a figure. Quite a beautiful kind of freestyle drawing is kind of how I want to describe that. Monsters and Creatures, beautiful. And how much did that sell for? Do I still have these tabs up? I don't have these tabs up. Let me see. Okay, there we go. 15 Tezos. Yeah, so nice sale for collector, nice sale for the artist. All good. Texadelic. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So interesting work here. It looks like, I'm kind of getting more and more friendly, so to speak, in my mind to kind of JPEG'd out, and I kind of was before, but I'm seeing it in my own work now. Maybe it's the influence of Yuri J, artists like, Texadelic here, but I'm finding this quite interesting. Again, celebrating this kind of fuzziness, so to speak. And then here we have just kind of combining that with, this nice mark making here. It almost looks like a watercolor. I assume it's digital, but I'm not positive about that. There is something kind of physical looking about it, but I'm not positive. Anyway, nice piece. I suspect it's digital. Edition of 25. Or half gone. Nice work. And sold out, actually. Dieu Pater. So here is Mumbleboy. And again, what do you see here? And who else is doing this, right? Mishiyasu, right? So all sorts of interesting things going on. We even saw it in RJ, right? Kind of blurring out some pixels. As long as this kind of experimentation continues and the artists keep working and evolving, you don't really need to worry too much, in my opinion, about as long as there's a place to mint, which I think there always will be, as long as there's blockchain, that is the important thing. Then it's like the market can do whatever it wants. The platforms can do whatever they want. They can't stop this art from evolving, unless there's always going to be someone who's going to say, okay, here's a platform where you can buy and sell your art. Let's continue. Absurdity. I think this was in the community, but I never saw it in the community. Interestingly, sometimes you don't get everything if you don't see your work in the community. Anyways, here it is. Cool work by Absurdity. It's using one of those Let's Glitch It cams. Image taken with circuit bent camera, Ken Gainzer Square in Santa Monica. And of course, Absurdity being in California, as we learned in a previous comment. So pretty cool photo, kind of a glitch photo of somewhere in California with a beautiful green sky. I mean, it's pretty powerful. Look at this. And yeah, and imagine just using this as a source too. I mean, there's so many things you could do with this, like recycle, remix, and everything. Let's continue. That pinball guy. This is owned by Kyle Flemmer. ASCII portrait of the ancient web browser. So here's, hilariously, a portrait of the original, I think, web browser Netscape. How beautiful and hilarious and brilliant is this? And again, it looks like it's on a screen. A photo of a screen is what this looks like. As you see, the curvedness, even the light changing a little bit here. Very interesting work from Pinball Guy, and that was 10 Tezos edition of 1. Here's Perfect Loop. Sometimes you got to keep scrolling, and I don't know how they do this, but pretty cool. Another cool animation here using old operating system elements. Super cool there. That's just posted on. Here's Gozo with a new work, edition of 20 at another time. Animated digital collage. So more hypertextures, I almost want to call them here. With Gozo, you just kind of sink into this scene. There's kind of a three-dimensionality to this one, and again, just hyper-textured on this one at another time, and this is sold out at 30 Tezos each. Nice take, 600 Tezos for Gozo. Dr. Version Collision Compound. And here, a couple of new works and this one was burned, so I'm not sure if there's a new version, but playing with different textures here and different light and everything, giving it a real organic feel. This one was burned, and here's Pyramid Scene, edition of 20 for 6 Tezos, also by Dr. Version, and I believe this is new as well. And again, you see these kind of basic shapes like the pyramids, and then each kind of area filled with a different kind of rotating texture, shall we call it, and then this great kind of floor here too. Great. I was going to say abstract, but here it's a pyramid scene, so not completely abstract. As we continue, here's Kuro with some glitch art. This is on Rodeo. I discovered this from Waffles' collection there on Rodeo. So nice black and white glitch work from Kuro, 4 minted so far. That's on base. Here is Kuro and Ranixtier on Object, and here's something called Threads, a work called Threads. So looking again like it is working with a Ranixtier gradient and then kind of processed in a gorgeously minimal way by Kuro, edition of 1, and that is 50 Tezos on primary. Here is Kyle Flemmer. Look at this. So Kyle Flemmer putting out the Space Works and then putting out these wonderfully, gorgeously textured, they look like glitch ROMs. I don't know. Or just, what is this from? Super Mario Kart, High Speed and Super Mario Kart. Interesting. Maybe it's two, anyways, the textures are beautiful, whatever this is. Doing a really good job there. Edition of 1. Kyle Flemmer's on fire, isn't he? Gorgeous work there. Faye Valentine. To reflect, let's see if we can get this playing. So another artist I haven't seen before. Interesting kind of textures here and just an interesting abstract, I think we could call it, unless it's a landscape. It's not super clear, kind of ambiguous, but it does look like a little bird on that hill. To reflect, edition of 3, 10 Tezos, RJ picking one up. Nice one. And Mika Oladev, artifact number 97, edition of 1. And this one is static, I believe. It is, and more interesting kind of pixeled glitchery is what I want to call it. 3D glitch is what Mika Oladev has, 35 Tezos. As the Artifact series continues, here's another one by Mika Oladev. This is a 3D model, a GLB, and it's kind of psychedelic, actually, the way the figure moves here. And you can see, as you see, and you can even see the inside of this figure. So interesting piece, anagram, X times 10, edition of 10 for 10 Tezos. And look at this scene, right? 7 gone. I mean, you gotta love the enthusiasm for this scene. Everybody, a lot of people doing well, selling work. This is all good. So, again, Object just kind of carefully staying out of the way and not getting in their own way. There's a lot to be said for that. Especially in crypto, where if you can stay out of your own way for 2 or 3 years, you're an institution, practically, if you can do that. Look at this. So this is Bosque Grezia's playing with the negatives again. Adding 3. So more creativity here, adding creativity to the process, which you always have to admire, as we're seeing with Enigmatris. And so analog slide collage with negatives found in Mauer Park, Berlin. So new negatives, I guess. Mauer Park is a famous park in Berlin in a neighborhood called Prenzlauer Berg, where on Sundays you can karaoke. I should try that. Perhaps. Bosque Gracias, edition of 1 and not unlisted. And here's another one. And this is also listed October 22nd, and it's at auction, starting bid of 12 Tezos. And so playing with these new negatives, probably. Super cool work there from Bosque Gracias. Something about this series I just never get tired of. Great series. Kennick Zapata, Assembly Gallery. And here, so some more super edgy AI work, as you see here in the AI text. Kennick Zapata, one of the most original and prolific artists here on the blockchain, and comes out of glitch. And a lot of glitch people do end up in AI. You know, some glitch thinking is that AI is kind of an extension because you're breaking things and whatever. And, you know, a lot of I think, you know, Sky Goodman is mentioned, you know, a lot of glitch artists were using AI pretty early on, 2015, 2016. So worth keeping in mind as you look at Kennick Zapata's work. Scamra, starting to reign, so more Scamra here, more interesting work. And again, you see the possibilities here that Scamra is outlining for us of the, you know, inspiration that AI can provide, whether it's this frame here, whether it's the textures, whether it's the composition. Great piece, starting to reign, edition of 10, and selling out at 6 Tezos each. Pretty awesome. Here's another one with a wonderful border there on the sides, the Mist, edition of 10. So Scamra doing quite well here, and again, you see these super rich, kind of buzzed out textures and everything. Again, accepting offers at 6 Tezos, so Scamra doing wonderful. Lily Illo, You're Brave and Kind, so a new, or at least a work posted by Lily Illo that I'd never seen before. Classic Lily Illo work. No Hygiene, Who Made the Wedding Cake, and I don't think we looked at this one. This is pretty hilarious. So again, as I've started to always say, you know, winning the prize for weird, you have angels in a wedding cake with like pretty edgy aesthetics here, but which grow on you the more you're exposed to it, right? It's kind of like a fine wine. Who Made the Wedding Cake? Great title, 5 Tezos, and edition of 10, and there you go, 7 gone. Here's Demon Ego, Lunch After Time, so playing with AI video, as you see here. Pretty wild experimentation from Demon Ego, pretty cool, and looking like there's even some dithering in the background there, a little bit pixelation. 992 by 1200, interestingly. 22 Tezos, edition of 10, and look at that. 15 Tezos I think they're all gone. Sold out. Awesome. And finally, Mikey de la Crema, AI work, People of Tezos. How rad is that? That is at auction right now for 100 Tezos. And there's Howdy Do NFT showing up. Awesome. And so here it is. Maybe it almost looks like a high school picture of Mikey de la Creme, if I had to guess, with a black and white American flag. AI, rad work, edition of 1, that is on Tezos. Finally, in the physicals, a couple here, Ed Marola with some work. This is on Rodeo, edition of 26, so putting a watercolor up there. Pretty cool and looking good. You know, sometimes when you just put out these sketch pieces, they're pretty cool. Here's another one. You are guilty of this. I'm really enjoying the physicals here. They look like Ed Marola works, don't they? Interesting, and almost to Luciana Guerra's earlier point. This is someone who I think mostly started, from what I understand, in pixel art, and then kind of is taking that pixel art mindset and now bringing it to physical. I think it's super interesting. I think it's creating really original work, interestingly. Here's a Machine with a brilliant piece. Could have started the show. Brilliant physical here from Machine. Always hitting it out of the park, seemingly. That Michael Jackson work, this work, there's always humor, right? Very interesting. Has a huge audience. I mean, machine, and then here, and hilarious, interesting original compositions with the dog smoking, and there's maybe the owner, maybe a blunt, who knows. 181 minted. This is on Zora. And so, very cool. That is your show, my friends. It is only an hour until the spaces, so the marathon continues. Stay inspired. Hope to see you in the space. Until next time, take care.